About 20 students from my university did a study abroad program in France last summer. We were spending a week in Paris before going to the town where the university was located. Most of the group got a group flight deal to Paris through the university. Others flew separately. The only requirement was that we had to be in Paris by the day we had to leave to go to our university. Most of us had arrived by the third day into our Paris trip, except for my friend Amanda. Naturally, we were all worried about her. Because her phone wasn't working, she had to update us from Facebook whenever she could get free Wi-Fi. Her flight had been delayed about 6 times already. Another day passed, still nothing from Amanda. We're all freaking out at this point. Since her phone wasn't working, we couldn't even contact her. The 5th day rolls around, still nothing. We all had a scheduled bike tour of the city that morning and a boat ride on the river that afternoon, so we didn't return to the hotel until about 7 that evening. When I got in, Amanda was asleep in our room. Of course, I woke her up and asked her where the hell she'd been. She told me that when she finally got to the airport, she was exhausted and broke. She had multiple layovers and had basically spent all her on-hand cash on food, plus her bank card wasn't working. For those of you unfamiliar with Charles de Gaulle Airport, it is fucking massive. Unless you have a map or understand French completely, you will get lost. So she gets there, lost, broke, tired, hungry, and carrying like 3 big-ass bags sitting inside the terminal. She said this good-looking guy walked up to her and started talking to her in perfect English. "You look tired. Do you need a taxi to your hotel?" Not thinking, she says, "Yes, thank you so much, I'm exhausted." He smiles at her and grabs one of her heavier bags and tells her to follow him. She does, and he leads her to this elevator. She gets inside, and he hits the button for the basement level. He gets on the phone before the elevator opens and starts speaking in French, which she couldn't really understand because it was slang. She starts freaking out though when the door opens. It was a service deck meant for employees of the airport or something, not for passenger parking or taxi pickup. It was damp and dark, and as she said, something literally out of a horror movie. The guy gets out of the elevator first and turns to her smiling. She takes a few steps and sees, in the far corner of the deck, the trunk of this green, unmarked van with no license plate open, and a huge, ugly-ass Middle Eastern guy steps out of the driver's seat. At this point, she realizes she's in trouble, but she doesn't want to alert the smiling guy that she's about to get the fuck out of there. There's no one in sight, so screaming would be useless, but the lift door is still open. She quickly placed one of her bags in the middle of the lift entrance and told the smiley guy that she needed her wallet that was in the bag that he was carrying. He looks at her sternly for a minute, but walks over to her and hands her the bag. She told me she pushed him down to the ground with the weight of the bag and got back in the elevator as fast as she could. He got up and was bounding after her. She said, "Girl, I hit every goddamn button on that elevator panel." The doors closed as soon as he reached her, and she could hear him banging on them as she was going back up to street level. She got to the taxi pickup lane and started bawling. A police officer approached her. She told him what happened, and he drove her to the hotel. On the way, he told her that the men were likely linked to a sex trafficking ring and were approaching young women inside the airport who had tags on their luggage indicating they had come from the US, assuming that American women were more trusting. I've flown with my 1-year-old solo nearly a dozen times. Usually people are understanding about me having a baby on my lap, and overall, he's a happy, easy baby. He's also very cute, so it's not uncommon for strangers to talk to him. The last trip I took, I sat alone in my aisle with a man sitting by himself directly behind me. My baby was tired and fussing. I knew he was tired, but there's not a lot I could do until after we took off. Right out the gate, the man behind was talking to my baby, saying, "Oh, hi baby! Why a sad baby? Cute, cute baby." I smiled and replied that he was tired. "Sorry for the fuss, thank you." After takeoff, I started to get him settled for a nap. The man behind us continued to talk to my baby, putting his hand through the seats to try and grab his feet. Multiple times I asked him nicely to please stop. My baby was tired, you're distracting him, he just needs a nap. Finally, I sat my baby down next to me so that I could make a bottle. The man behind me stood up and reached over my seat to pick him up. I immediately leaned forward to pick up the baby, saying, "No thank you, I don't need help. Please no, no thank you." The man pushed me back into my seat while mumbling, "Sweet baby, why baby cry?" I replied very loudly, "No," and quickly picked up my baby. I thought that was the end of that. I was wrong. I tried to rock my baby to sleep while desperately trying not to lose my cool. As I'm rocking baby, the man behind me reached through our seats to grab my arm, saying, "No rocking, you're making him cry." I pulled free from him and yelled, "Do not touch me." Again, I thought that'd be the end. I started rocking the baby for a second time. This time, the man behind me reached both hands around either side of my seat to hold me in place, saying, "No, no rocking, stop rocking." I am somewhat embarrassed that I completely lost it. Clutching my baby to my chest while struggling to get free of him, I hit the call light while screaming, "Let me go, do not touch me." He was still holding me by my arms when the flight attendants came running. I could barely get anything out to the flight attendants. Everyone around us was staring, I was sobbing, and all I could get out was that I could not sit there anymore. And for the love of God, please move me. The man behind me tried to move with me, but I told the flight attendants that I did not know him and he could not come with me. I had a good cry in my new seat, but my baby immediately went to sleep. After calming down, I explained to the flight attendants what had happened. Multiple times, the man that had been behind me got up to try to come back to my new seat, only to be turned around by one of the flight attendants. Towards the end of the flight, one of the flight attendants told me that they'd explained everything to the pilot, and the pilot had called the FBI and local police to escort the man off the flight. I would also be escorted off, as well as everyone around us that had watched everything happen. He cheered as he was escorted off. I had to interview with the FBI and nearly missed my next flight. After my trip was done, I had to fly back through the same airport. It was stressful and emotional to say the least, even knowing that he was banned from the airline and the airport. I haven't flown since. I'm a 20-year-old female, and this took place back in March. I was 19 years old at the time. It was the end of spring break, and I was returning to Texas from California. I had just spent my vacation with my sister, who lives in San Francisco. Every college kid counts down the days until spring break, and my vacation has gone rather well. However, I was slightly okay with returning to the essays and research papers because I missed my friends, my bed, and my cat. I was flying alone, something I don't like doing for multiple reasons, and had only one layover in Dallas. I don't like traveling alone because I've had some bad experiences, and I happen to look a lot younger than 20. Most often, people say I look 13 or 14 at the most. I've always hated this about myself, but I'm told I'll be grateful when I'm older. As of now, it's just immensely frustrating. The last time I was on a plane by myself, the attendant thought I was an unaccompanied minor named Taylor. I quickly assured her I was not the minor in question. The time before that, I was asked to move away from the emergency exit because you have to be at least 16 to sit there. Anyways, my boyfriend was picking me up from the airport and I was excited. I wore the pink members-only jacket he had bought for me and tried to look my best. When the plane arrived in Dallas, we had some really terrible weather and the turbulence was scary. But no matter, soon I would be on another flight to Houston. I took the train around to the C terminal and made my way to my gate only to find that, due to torrential rain and lightning, my flight had been canceled. I was crushed but determined, so I took my ticket to be exchanged for a later flight. It seemed many others had the same grievance and were opting to do the same. As I was standing in line, a friendly-looking older man came up to stand behind me. "Are you alone?" he asked me. Everyone seemed to be conversing with one another, complaining about the weather and pondering their options to get home. It didn't seem like a big deal, because strangers always seem to connect in situations like this one. We were all frustrated. I also felt safe in the crowded airport, so I answered him truthfully and continued to wait in the line. The man behind the counter said I was in luck, that there were only 2 seats left on another flight to Houston, and that I could make it if I hurried. I rushed to board the train to the A terminal to catch my new flight, and upon reaching the gate was faced with the same situation. This new flight was canceled too. The man from before had followed me to the gate and was in the same boat. I exchanged my ticket for a later flight and resolutely marched myself to the new gate, only to be told the same as before. This happened, literally, 2 or 3 more times. The man shadowed me during the entire ordeal, and I didn't really find it strange. We were just 2 individuals stranded in an airport. The last gate I went to, I noticed he was still following me. He walks over to me and begins to chat about what awful luck we are having. Someone eavesdropping nearby suggests that I rent a car. I politely tell them that I am not old enough. The man smiles and says to me, Well, I'm old enough to rent a car. How about this? I'll rent us one. You can sleep and I'll drive. I look at him, and the way he is staring at me scares me. I finally begin to feel that something is off. I responded, "No, but thank you. I'm going pretty far." His smile falters for a moment, then he suggests that he buy me some food. I am starving. I am tempted. I hesitated for a moment, but then I remembered a book I had read about a girl who was stolen from the airport after a man drugged her coffee. This gives me the strength to deny my grumbling stomach and decline him again. He follows me. I don't know why. He's already told me he's going to rent a car and leave. He points to a Mexican restaurant and says, "Ooh, how about this place?" He has this strange look on his face and is standing far too close to me. I shake my head and say, "I told you, I'm really not hungry." Lie, big lie. I can smell something delicious and I almost give in, but my face does not betray my hunger and I keep my pace. "Okay, what about burgers then?" He looks a bit annoyed. This guy does not give up easily. I ignore him. This causes him to glare at me angrily and then stalk away. I breathe a sigh of relief. I called my sister to tell her about him, not in a catty sort of way, just a "wow, that guy was persistent" kind of thing. I settle into a chair to think about my options. I feel pretty alone and worried. My latest ticket has me leaving around midnight, and it was about 9 p.m. at that point. I had been in the airport since 5 p.m. If this last flight didn't work out, I had no clue what I would do. I had no money for a hotel and didn't fancy sleeping in a chair. The last time I fell asleep in public, a lady attempted to steal my backpack. I look up about 30 minutes later to see the same man walking towards me. I tuck my legs up in my chair nervously and pretend to play on my phone. "Hey there, still here?" he asks. He seems to have cooled down. I just stare at him. He clears his throat and tries again. "So I was thinking you should come stay at my aunt's house with me for the night. That's where I am staying tonight. It would be no problem. You don't want to be in this airport all night, all alone." I shake my head and say, "No, I'm fine." Then turn my attention back to my phone. I didn't even make eye contact. I felt really uncomfortable. He tries to convince me, and I have to say no firmly several more times. He looks angry, really angry. His hands are clenched, and his smile is obviously fake. It looks as if he will shatter his teeth if he clenches his jaw any tighter. I wonder to myself why he hasn't left the airport yet. Then I notice that his luggage is no longer with him. He was rolling it behind him, and now he isn't. Where would he have put it if he hadn't left yet? And so much time has passed. Why is he back here? As I'm thinking all of this, he is just standing there, staring. After what feels like forever, he storms off again. I feel so anxious because of him that I grab my things and move to a different gate to wait. My phone was dying, and I didn't want to be without it. So to charge it, I had to plug it into the outlet on the floor. I curled up in the aisle between the chairs to wait. My sister called about an hour later, and I was talking to her telling her how creepy the dark weather outside looked when I saw him. Again, walking around, glancing here and there in search of me. I hunched down even farther, but my pink jacket was like a beacon. He locked eyes with me, and I looked down. My sister said to stay on the phone, so I did. "Well, there you are," he says, not even acknowledging that I'm in the middle of a phone call. I continue talking to my sister. When it becomes apparent that he isn't leaving and doesn't care that I'm on the phone, I finally look up. "So you are still here. Look, you need to come with me. You can stay with me at my grandparents' tonight. They would love to have you. They won't mind me bringing you at all. Just come with me." I got chills. I don't know why, but something in his eyes told me he was lying through those shiny white teeth of his. "You said you were staying with your aunt." His face dropped. It went from cool and collected to something else. Not even anger this time, and not defeat either. Almost like amusement. Something like the cat that ate the canary. He shrugs his shoulders like, "I tried." But we both recognized that he was caught in his lie. The entire time my sister is saying, "Hello," repeatedly, but I was sort of shocked by how indifferent he was to me catching on to him. I go back to my conversation and he says, "If you change your mind," and lets the thought trail off while walking away backwards, eyes still on me. I call my boyfriend and tell him about each exchange, and he tells me to find a security guard to tell. I looked around for one, but couldn't find one. It was creepy because I've never seen an airport so deserted. I end up just deciding to move again and lay down between two different aisles, out of view. A boy my age walks by and asks, "Why are you laying on the floor?" And I respond a tad aggressively with, "Because I want to." He laughs and puts his hands up, the unspoken sign for "Wah, take it easy." I apologize for my gruffness, and tell him that a man was making me nervous. He jokingly says he'll protect me, and because he seems harmless and I mention my boyfriend, I converse with him for a while. He tells me he saw me and wondered why the blonde girl looked so sad. A little while later, I am thankful I did not brush off this stranger because I see the man again walking around. We made eye contact, but he did not attempt to approach me because I was no longer alone. Maybe he was just some middle-aged man trying his luck at getting a girlfriend or something. But scaring someone isn't the way to do it. Even if he meant me absolutely no harm, he was too aggressive and angry